Podtacular, the unofficial Halo Universe podcast, presents episode 684, Bad Blood, recorded live on May 30th, 2019. Hello everyone, welcome to Podtacular, the unofficial Halo Universe podcast. I am your host, Duststorm.
I'm your co-host, Godzilla T.
And we have finished another book, or more specifically, I have finished another book, which will be...
Yeah, let's be clear on this. Dust has finished the book for the first time. I have finished the book for the 7th time.
More on that in a little bit. Plus, we've got a whole crap ton of news for Halo Reach on MCC, being that there's a whole social stream and a whole big May update for it yesterday. So we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
And a couple little Halo bits of news in the community update that just came out literally 30 minutes ago, as of when we're talking about this now.
Why not?
Yeah, thanks, Uni. I think it was Uni that posted it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Uni. Anyways... So we've got some news to talk about, and we've got the book to talk about as well. Just another disclaimer on the book stuff. We're not going to be reviewing it verbatim, going through the whole story. We're just going to be talking about the interesting bits and other bits that we think are pretty...
General premise of the book.
Yeah, general premise, and then other things that we enjoyed about the book or find interesting about the book. If you really want the deep dive on the book... I obviously recommend checking out Halo Conversationalists and Podcast
Or
Evolve,
reading it.
or reading the book as well. Yes, but we're gonna talk about what the overall book is about, and then talk about specific things that we are interested in specifically. And for those in the live stream, if you want to chime in on your favorite bits as well, once we get to it, feel free to do so. But let's go ahead and do our housekeeping for the week. GT, how did Fragment Friday go last week?
Went really well. I know I sound like a broken record, but it's just fun.
Yeah.
I can't say bad things about it.
That's a good thing.
This week, we will get to play some Castle Wars.
Yes.
Hey, Castle Wars.
Yes, that'll be fun.
And Dust will get to play his Warzone Turbo. Then he'll forget to.
Warzone Turbo.
But we did play a little bit of Roman King to start off with. While the group was small enough, we moved into Super Fiesta. We did some big team. We stayed away from Warzone this last week. Just wasn't it just wasn't there. It takes a special crowd to be able to do the whole Warzone thing.
You just gotta have a full party in order to do it right.
You have to like punishment, I think.
Well, I guess there's that too, if you want to look at it from that angle.
Don't get me wrong. I enjoy Warzone, and I enjoy the premise of Warzone. The deal is it got really competitive really fast. That honeymoon period for a new game type didn't last near long enough for me. Before people started really figuring it out, and it makes it less fun for some people.
Yeah,
but no, I love the premise of the game type, and I think 343 did a really good job with it. There are people that have criticisms about it, and that's fine. But all in all, for it's their first attempt at it, I think they did pretty good. This next week, we will be doing Halo 5, unless the lobby decides to run through the MCC. We may play MCC for a little while and then switch back to Halo 5 or vice versa. So tune in and see what happens. Be there at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Mixer, Twitch, and YouTube. And if you would like to join in the fun, just send me a message on Xbox Live. And all you have to do is just say I and send it, and I'll invite you into the party. You don't have to type in a long message. If you invite me to your game, I will not respond. If you invite me to your party, I will not respond. So if you would like to join in, send me a message, please. It makes it much easier for me.
Remember the days when back in 360 where someone would just send you an invite and then you just go to their profile and send them an invite right back? Don't you wish it was a little more simpler like that instead of how complicated it is today?
Well, the deal is with Xbox One, you can't, when somebody invites you, you can't access their profile. You can either accept or decline the invite.
Right. Well, that's what I was getting at, basically.
And that's why I asked for a message instead of that, because if you send me a message, I can just open the message and
go to the profile,
view your profile, and invite you into the party and into the game. And like I said, you don't have to say anything really. Just put a letter in it and send it. Just do the absolute minimum required to send it.
Basically, it's just a ping is what it is.
Yeah. It just lets me know that there's somebody that wants to come in.
My guess is for you guys, well, I'll not say you guys, but I show up every now and then for the MCC stuff. And I know we're getting ahead a little bit, but on the social stream yesterday when they were talking about the Reach stuff, apparently there's a pretty large content update or a pretty sizable one coming in June.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be sizable enough to maybe pop over to MCC for a couple of weeks. So we'll just have to see where that leads us.
We'll have to see what it is.
Yeah. Interesting to hear that there was going to be a big content update, especially with all the stuff that they've been doing with bringing Reach to MCC and bringing MCC to PC and then preparing stuff for E3 and Halo Outpost. So the fact that they're even...
Well, there may be some other under the hood stuff that they're also updating in preparation for releasing Reach consoles. And they figured they're going to do this big update anyway, so they might as well put some frillies in there as well.
That's a good point.
But we don't know what it is. We did find out that the content browser or the games browser is more complicated than they originally thought it was going to be. Big surprise. But they are still dedicated to getting it done. The one thing I would say is if they would give us a content browser in the meantime, where we can browse custom games, custom game types, and increase the number of which we can store or have direct access to, then that would be a nice tide me over until you get the custom game browser.
Yeah, because I can't imagine flipping changing the value, and I don't know what the heck my cat is doing. I'm changing the value to, was it 50 right now, to like 250?
Well, actually...
Or more?
With the 4 games, it'd be more like five games, technically. You'd be looking more like at 500.
I mean, I guess it depends on the size of the files, but I mean, that should really be left up to the user if they want to fill their hard drive with that kind of stuff, right?
It all depends. Well, I mean, even on the 360, they fit. You could put 500 maps on a memory card. That was what? I think they were 3 megabytes.
Well, that was the map file format for 360.
Right.
It might be a little bit bigger for...
It might be bigger, but I wouldn't imagine it's that big.
I'd hope not, yeah. We'll have to see.
Yeah, who knows?
I mean, it'd be nice to have that kind of, like you said, to tide us over until we actually can get a good content browser.
But don't get me wrong. I love MCC and I love all the improvements. The lack of support for custom games makes it difficult to play repeatedly because you can only handle so much matchmaking before you need to do something different. And don't get me wrong, they've done a pretty good job of being able to kind of get that customs night feel, but you have a really limited number of games and you tend to repeat games.
Unless a new person comes in with new games and you're willing to trust that person being a host of a lobby.
With the current system, with the match made stuff, with their action sack playlist and stuff like that, they have a variety of games, but it's a small variety compared to what, my library used to be.
Gotcha.
It used to be we could go through a whole night of custom games and not repeat a single game. Unless, the lobby really wanted to play the game again.
True.
Where leaving it up to matchmaking, you'll wind up playing the same game 5-6 times. Maybe not in a row, but it will be repeated more and more often.
Was it Halo 5 or Halo MCC that they made the change where they would try to make it to where you do not play the same map and mode repeatedly?
Actually, both of them.
Was it both? Okay.
But it doesn't work very well because
probably population.
I've had nights where I play the same map, same mode over and over again. Sometimes it'll only be twice in a row. Sometimes it'll be 4 times in a row, and then it'll go away for a game, and then it'll be right back. It's really kind of random how that works. And I know it's hard to do that because you constantly have new people coming into matchmaking. And if, there's one person on the team that had just played the previous match and everybody else hasn't, then it's probably the system's going to lean towards keeping that that particular map in the rotation. So the person that stays in the search is more apt to see repeats.
Yep. Makes sense. We did do some of the Husky Raid maps after you left. I know you kind of wanted to do it while you're streaming, but we went through the top 5 maps, and they were a lot of fun, although we couldn't get one of them to work. The one that had that orbital feel to it, for some reason, it just didn't want to load with the Husky Raid game mode. But we played the other 4, and the one that was the closest nail-biter one was the M808 factory map. That went down to the end of the time limit. So those maps were a lot of fun. I just want to give kudos to Forge Hub for putting it on there. And I think it was one of their most received entries for a contest that they've had to date, at least within Halo 5. The fact that there's that many submissions and people forging for Halo is still a good sign, and they're all really good maps.
Yeah.
So thanks, Forge Hub, for putting it on, and thanks to all the forgers out there who have made these maps, because we had a lot of fun Friday after the stream was done.
Yeah, it lends itself well to how popular Super Fiesta is.
Yes, it does. Hence, it needs to be a supported game mode out the gate for Infinite.
Yeah, I really don't care if you don't put the weapons anywhere in the campaign and or regular matchmaking, as long as we can still keep Super Fiesta.
That would be appreciated. I would agree with that statement. On Sunday, Laird and I completely finished Legendary for Definitive Edition. We got through the final 6 missions in, I want to say, about 2 hours.
Cool.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Laird, but yeah, we crushed it. And I got 3 achievements. I got Epic Grinder, which is getting a lifetime campaign score of over 1 million. I got Detour The Great Journey, which is the completing the game on Legendary. And then I didn't get to second base, which is for Mission 14, don't claim an extra base. So got 3 achievements. And then Laird and I are going to hop back on Definitive Edition to try to get some more achievements, being the last Sunday before I head out to LA for E3. Still haven't figured out what specific achievements we're going to be going for, but we'll figure that out, and we'll be streaming that on Sunday at 10 p.m. Eastern. We did actually get Laird an achievement, which is going towards one of the Win Skirmishes achievements. I forget which one specifically he got, but I think it was either 100 skirmish wins, so we got him that one. So continuing to work on that. Oh, it was 50, not 100. Okay. So more achievements to come for Definitive Edition, and then I think after E3's done, we'll probably be bouncing back and forth between Halo Wars 2 and Halo Wars Definitive Edition, kind of alternating back and forth there. So we'll see what happens. So let's go ahead and drop into the news for this week. Obviously, the big thing is the social stream and a lot more updates with Halo Reach coming to MCC and MCC coming to PC as well. So Sketch was there with Max Slazor. Is that I always have a hard time actually properly pronouncing his name.
You are asking the absolute wrong person.
Max and then IK Grub were on the social stream showcasing Halo Reach being played on PC.
And I have to admit, it looks really good.
Looks really smooth, too.
Granted, they haven't implemented the FOV slider in the build that they were playing yet, and they still had some of the Xbox prompts in there. But he was playing with mouse and keyboard, and it showed in his play as well, because he's admittedly a controller player.
Yep.
But
and you could tell.
It looks really good. The cutscene looks really crisp. They were only doing it in 1080p, I think 60 frames. But I mean, the animations looked really crisp. It looked really good. They played through the mission twice, and the second time the chat got to him and he let Cat drive.
Yeah. Rip.
She didn't outright kill him. I think she got him killed, but she didn't outright kill him.
Oh, she tried to run him over, 3 times?
Something like that, yeah.
But at least she didn't drive him off a cliff.
No, everybody was waiting for that one.
I think people just wanted to see it happen.
They wanted proof that they hadn't altered the AI for Cat.
Some people just want to watch the world burn.
Mm-hmm. The first thing you learn whenever you play Reach is never let Cat drive. She can shoot, don't let her drive.
I wonder if I should tell my wife that when we eventually get to Reach. Too much?
I don't know. Is she watching the podcast?
I don't think she's watching right now. She might listen to it later, but by the time we get around to it, we'll bank on her not remembering.
Note to Dust Wife, remember, do not let Cat drive. She's the light blue one with the mechanical arm.
Well, we'll see what happens. So with the social stream and the development update blog, there's a lot of stuff to cover. First all being that there is going to be a build of Halo Reach at E3. The build that they played yesterday isn't an exact representation of what the E3 build is going to be, but the build at E3 apparently is the same build that they used to do their pre-flight testing, which they were using to test whitelists, content delivery, and that kind of stuff. They are trying to get the flight out in June, so unfortunately they couldn't hit this month, but Sketch did say pretty confidently that the flight would be out for June for the Halo Insiders. Still no word on whether or not it's going to be streamable, what's going to be specifically focused in the flight yet. It'll just be up to whoever gets into the flight and what they want to share with those participants at the time. For the other stuff coming to Steam, though, they did showcase how it looks in Steam and how you launch it and how it functions just like any other game on Steam would.
And the reason they did give some reasons why they are doing the flighting through Steam is because they're new to the Steam platform with Halo, and they're testing the platform as much as they're testing the game to make sure they get it right.
It's interesting because there was an announcement or an article that I saw going across my Google feed of Microsoft wanting to support more games on Steam and then having the Windows Store actually have Windows 32 games instead of just the Universal
UDP apps.
Yeah.
Universal platform. They're probably going to talk about this at E3, but they're
pretty sure they would definitely, because this is some big news that's happened lately.
Yeah. They're working on a version of Game Pass for PC, and that would be, a Win32 based install.
Oh,
I haven't heard a lot about it, but supposedly they're going to talk about that at E3. So we'll see what they say.
Well, that's going to be the place where I assume a lot of the recent news that has been discussed is probably going to come out. I mean, they have the thing with where they are partnering with Sony to come up with like the next gen gaming platform, and now there's this partnership with Steam, and there's a lot of shakeups that I'm expecting us to hear a lot more info about at E3 this year.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to their presentation.
The Xbox press brief. It's going to be an interesting one.
Because, just Microsoft in general. Because they've got a lot of stuff floating around on their plate right now. They have their xCloud game streaming. They've got this, Game Pass for PC. This could be a really interesting E3 for Microsoft.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of stuff to crunch. I wonder if they're going to extend their brief at all, because I think traditionally it's been an hour and a half. With how much stuff that's out there, it could be 2 hours.
Yeah, it kind of all depends on what they decide to focus on. They may not discuss as part of the briefing like some of the games. They may do like the Halo stuff on a separate forum. Who knows?
Well, they'll probably make all their big announcements at some point during the brief, but then all the ancillary supporting stuff is usually what they talk about on the show floor. Exactly. Or later on. But all that big stuff, though, is still, there's a lot of it out there floating around right now.
We'll see what they talk about. There's a lot of theories out there right now, so.
There definitely is. And Halo is among those.
Speaking of cats.
Yes. Yes, I noticed yours in the background. You giving it a good stare.
He's been trying to dig through that cabinet for 2 years or for 5 years now, so he hadn't made it through yet. So
I don't think he'll make it through. At least that's kind of the gist of it. All right, I guess let's just go through the update that Postum's provided, and there's a lot of stuff in here. There's DuckTales. There's 2 scoops in here, and lots of Q&A stuff about reach progression systems and unlocks, FOV sliders, all this kind of fun stuff. Jumping into the DuckTales stuff, this is obviously Dana Tripback otherwise known as the Psycho Duck, talking about what the goal is for Reach as far as matchmaking, campaign, and some of the final stages that they want the game to be in when Reach launches. So, talking with matchmaking, there's 4 goals that they're wanting to hit as they introduce Reach matchmaking to MCC. First one is providing a robust playlist lineup for Reach players on day 1 and highlighting the most unique and definitive Reach game modes and maps. And he kind of explains this as pretty much out of the box experience for the title on Xboxes. They want to make sure that is replicated on the PC. And then respect legacy where possible, but intelligently diverge from legacy behavior where necessary to provide best experience for a modern audience. That one made me scratch my head a little bit before I read the rest of what he meant by that. Because that's a mouthful right there.
Yeah.
And then build a strong foundation for future matchmaking updates to sustain. Which, that's kind of what they've done with the other Halo games in MCC so far. Content updates, playlist refresh, all that kind of stuff. So making sure that fits in with their goals of keeping the MCC platform going. And the infamous question, vanilla or TU?
Both. Oh.
TLDR, both.
Yeah, they're for your regular matchmaking. Looks like they're going to use the title update settings. For Invasion, they will not be using the title update settings.
And then there's a couple of niche ones like Griffball and Infection that will probably be vanilla or the custom settings for those specific game modes. But other than that, yeah, pretty much heavily relying on the title update with the exception of Invasion.
Yeah. Your regular game modes, or, I should say the core game modes, Slayer, Flag, Assault.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. As Goose would put it, shooty Halo. They will be using the title update settings with the exception of Invasion. And I'm glad to hear that they do plan on having Invasion available.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of wondering about that.
I'm glad that they're having it in there. It'll be a nice little alternative in a way to... Well, it's kind of like, I guess in a way, the Warzone, but before Halo 5 came along. So it's kind of like that intermediate
that's
experience.
One thing I liked about Invasion. You could solo queue in Invasion. Because it's... There's strategy to it, but it's not as in-depth as Warzone. I mean, the idea is to capture points. It's pretty easy to solo queue in that. And, I never had the feeling in Invasion like I do in Warzone. To this day, I still find Invasion fun. And I have no problem solo queuing in it.
It'll be nice to have it on MCC.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say that much.
I'm actually really looking forward to playing it in the MCC and on PC as well. Unfortunately, I think I'm going to have to buy a larger hard drive for my laptop though.
Well, yeah, because the install on Xbox right now is what, $79? And if you're going to add a full new game in there, that's going to be...
we'll be back up to 100.
Or at least close to, yeah.
Oh, I bet you will be right at 100. 20 gigs for matchmaking and campaign.
Well, if you think everything fitting on a DVD...
Yeah, except for this no longer is packaged on a DVD.
No. I mean, yeah, so if you're thinking about all the DLC, 4K updates, and all that kind of stuff, yeah, it's definitely up there.
It's definitely larger than it was originally.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm looking forward to it.
There is not going to be Invasion, Slayer, or Skirmish at the start, so there is that to note, but they're going to have all 3 Invasion maps, including the DLC one, Breakpoint, added in there, and that will be evenly weighted between the 3 maps for the Invasion playlist specifically. And I believed they said that would be ranked. Yes.
Let's see. Looks like as far as they will have a social match composer as well.
Yeah, they'll have options in the Match Composer to include
Yeah.
Reach. And they actually kind of broke out what specific game modes in Reach will fit the pre-existing social games Match Composer settings.
Looks like you can enjoy DMR Slayer the most, AR Pistol the least.
Matches kind of some of the recent updates they have done to Halo 3, which has been favored.
Flag Bomb and Stockpile sometimes. Kind of in between. So, yeah. At least the AR pistol start is towards the bottom of the list. Not that I have that much problem with it, but
Right. No, that's definitely going to help. I mean, I guess it's kind of one of those things you want to keep at least the classic in there and available, but people are going to want the precision weapon to be the more heavily weighted option.
And it also, the game will include all of the DLC content,
including Anniversary.
So you'll get, you'll have the Noble, Defiant, Anniversary map packets in there. So
they mentioned something in here that kind of threw me off a little bit, but they said the current plan is to use the remixed map variants as opposed to the classic ones paired with the standard TU settings. This is for the Anniversary map pack. So was there, what did they mean by remixed map variants? Did they release Anniversary and then make changes to them?
I think they went in through Forge and moved some stuff around.
Okay.
Kind of like what they just did with BTB, where they kind of they didn't really alter the map as much. It's probably, if I remember right, it's kind of like Snowbound and Boundless, essentially the same map, just the removal of shield doors and movement of weapons.
Oh, that's right. Like that's right. So, like for Battle Creek, where you normally didn't have the tunnels in the river, there was those tunnels that went out. Okay, so that's right. I forgot about those. It's been a while since I played. Going back to the playlist thing real quick, though, just going over all the Match Composer options. So for the Flag and Bomb option, it's going to be Stockpile, Multi, and 1 Flag CTF, Multi-Neutral, and 1 Bomb Assault. For Zone Control, it's going to be King of the Hill and Territories. For Asset Denial, it's going to be Headhunter and Oddball. Headhunter will be fun to play again.
I played it long enough to get my achievement, and then I never played it again. I'm serious.
Hey, and remember someone was able to hack it back into Halo 4?
Uh-huh.
It'd be cool if that would get brought into MCC. I have to ask someone about that. SWAT's going to be SWAT and SWAT Magnums. So SWAT probably being DMR and then SWAT Magnums. Snipers, pretty self-explanatory. Action Sack is Fiesta, Elite Slayer, Dino Blasters, for those who remember that one. Bro Slayer, Flag Slayer, and Speed Pile.
Speed Pile is fun.
Yeah. There was a lot of really cool game modes in Halo Reach. Infection would be Infection and Alpha Zombies. Griffball will be Griffball, Griffball Dash, and Blarg Ball. Blarg. There's also going to be a firefight matchmaking capability as well. And there will also be campaign playlists. So similar to how we have playlists for all the other campaigns in there. So like you have your vehicular battles, the Mombasa streets, and all that kind of stuff. You'll have those kinds of playlists for all the Reach campaign experiences as well.
And for those of you that haven't gotten enough Lasso, they will also have a Lasso playlist.
Yep. Something
just because you need another one.
They didn't mention anything about. Well, no, they did mention something about achievements in the social stream. I don't remember seeing it in the article, but they did mention something about achievements.
Yeah, they didn't go into detail on them, but they did say achievements.
Yay, 1,000 more gamer score.
At that point, they were actually talking about Steam, but I'm sure there'll be some that comes to Xbox as well.
I'm pretty sure there's going to be some coming to Xbox. I'd be very surprised if there wasn't. Something they also mentioned, though, is for co-op campaign and firefight, they're changing those to an asynchronous model for multiplayer updates. So in the past, if you've had bad connections and you're playing firefighter campaign, the game would halt until everyone sent in their updates and then play through again. But they're changing the model on the back end to where it's asynchronous. So it should be a lot more smooth and not as sluggish. So that's
good.
A huge benefit. Didn't they were talking about asynchronous with something else recently too, right? I guess that was for just MCC on PC in general, I think. I think that was actually probably in their April development update, now that I'm thinking about it. And obviously there's going to be a lot of feedback coming into things, but they've curated their initial playlist offerings that they're going to have with Reach based on existing data within current MCC feedback and play experiences, and then personal experience and other trends that they have seen through Reach's history. So there's a lot of stuff kind of behind why they're picking the certain playlists and features that they're wanting to for the matchmaking experience. All good stuff.
Yeah.
So on the competitive side, since we just covered the social side, they're going to have Reach Hardcore, which is going to be Zero Bloom, No Sprint, and the MLG 7 rule set. And then there'll be Invasion, which will be the typical Spartan versus Elite invasion, so no Invasion Skirmish or Invasion Slayer. And it will be using the vanilla settings, not the TU settings. And for everyone who doesn't know what TU is, that's title update. Which really is, if you think about it, it's 343's first Halo content that ever came out was the title update for Halo Reach.
Yeah, that was a pretty major update for Reach.
343 started off strong with that title update.
Yeah, the funny thing is that even after the title update, people complained and whined and moaned still about the game. To the point where, because at first everything was title updated. When it came to regular matchmaking, they didn't do it in Invasion. But, all your Slayer game modes, even your objective game modes, they were all using the title update settings, and people complained to the point where they brought back the other settings as well.
Well, and so then there was an 80% bloom or 20% bloom or something like that. So there was an in-between.
Yeah, the first title update was Zero Bloom. And then they did another update where it took the bloom from...
It was a reduced bloom.
Yeah, it was a reduced bloom. It was like 60 or 80% of what it was before. And then they had regular vanilla Reach in there as well. It was really confusing.
It was all over the freaking place.
That was a prime example of the developer listening too much to the community. They were trying to make everybody happy, and the people didn't know what they wanted. And
that's kind of sometimes where I have my argument of 343 shouldn't really be should be taking community feedback with a big grain of salt.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There are things they could have done with Bloom to make the game feel better. The problem is the way the game was developed. It was developed to have Bloom as a mechanic, and removing it really makes for a poor experience. I mean, I honestly, with the first title update, I think I had a harder time landing my shots than I did than when I had Bloom. The Bloom moment, right out of the box, I was comfortable with the Bloom. It it fit with my playstyle perfectly. I didn't have a problem with Bloom. I didn't have a problem until he took the Bloom away.
Well, and it's one of those things, it's a new game, you learn the new tools, but everyone's like, this is so different. We don't like it. And people are afraid of change, but just nothing new.
That's just it. I didn't need to get used to Reach. It just naturally fit the way I played. Either that or I adapted to it, and within like 3 seconds of playing it, it felt right.
Well, I think as long as you understand the mechanics, you know how to use it, but people just didn't like the mechanics because it was different. I mean, I'm sure people got used to it, but they probably still didn't like it.
Well, it's the same with Halo 5. I had to get used to Halo 5. And I had to get used to Halo 4 as well. Just Halo 5 took a little bit longer than Halo 4 did. It took a lot longer than Reach did.
Fair enough. Next part in the developer update is a little interview with Ruffian Games, who's working with 343 again to bring MCC to PC. Or, sorry, they're bringing Reach to MCC. Splash Damage is doing the MCC to PC part. So we've got the same question in here on like what's some of the funny tidbits in the source code that you found, and obviously there's probably some inappropriate commented sections in there and whatnot.
No, Bungie wouldn't do that, would they?
It's Bungie.
Can you imagine what hides in their code for Destiny?
That's a good question. F Microsoft. Crap, F Activision. They were asked what were some of the more technical difficult issues, and obviously some of the stuff is doing 4K and HDR and making sure that the artistic stuff is set right, and then accordingly keeping true to the old stuff, but also updating for the new capability set. But something interesting that kind of stuck out to me is the fact that they were having to address some of the visual art style of the game with motion blur that was like deliberately put in, and most games today you don't expect motion blur to be in there. You expect the option of it no motion blur whatsoever, or you manually enable motion blur in your game. So having to
it was a different world back then. The hardware dictates how you write the code for the game, and the hardware dictated to make it look right. You needed to have motion blur. So that's the way Reach was coded, and which is all great when you're at 1080p or 720p at 30 frames per second. But when you crank it up to 4K Ultra HD, then it becomes a problem. It's similar to, and this is on the PC side, with the FOV slider. One of the issues of the FOV slider is, it's great to expand the field of view, except for one small problem. The game was designed to be run at a max resolution of 1080p. So that means...
Well, and it wasn't even true 1080p.
Yeah, it wasn't even a true 1080p, but at a certain field of view. If you expand that field of view, then things start getting weird because there's nothing there to be rendered because it wasn't designed to be rendered at that viewing angle, like your arms.
Yeah.
Like, you push the FOV slider to 105% and all of a sudden your elbows aren't attached to anything.
Because that was never loaded because you would never see it.
It was never designed, it was never put into the game, and why put assets into the game that you're never going to see? So that's one of the interesting things about FOV. And also, if to combat that, you can adjust where the way the model works, but then you get spaghetti arms.
That we've seen so many times in random clipping and phasing of people dying in Halo 3 and Halo Reach. And
yeah. Well, I
Spaghetti
mean, there are
pie.
some people that have modded Halo 2 for Halo 2 Vista to give you a wider field of view, and you wind up with arms that they're disproportionate. They're really thick here, and then they're really thin down here. And it just, you go from having, nice manly shoulders to this little bitty wrist. And, all of a sudden a BR just, it's like you pulled it like taffy.
Well, because they're basically stretching
Yeah, they're just
that
stretching
layer
the
instead
image
of actually properly adjusting the FOV, which is what they're doing for Reach.
Which they've got some screenshots in there that I'd highly recommend you take a look at, because some of them are kind of funny. There's one there that there's just a pair of arms floating in the air. No body, just arms.
Yeah. And if you think about how these games were made, there's limited resources, so they're scrapping every bit of memory and things that have to be loaded at the same time. So they didn't want to load anything else other than arms and the weapon that you were using.
Yeah, they only wanted to load what you absolutely needed to have.
So there's that. The next big milestone that they have is just optimizing MCC, reducing file sizes, improving load times, and all that kind of stuff. So the next part is the scoop.
The scoop.
Sean Scoops Cooper and Andrew Snickle. It's like a schnitzel and a nickel combined into one. I'm sorry if either of you listen to this podcast. I mean it all in good fun.
We're not laughing at you. We're laughing with you.
Right. So they're a couple of the publishing team engineers. So there's a little bit of Q&A with them on the MCC PC project. Obviously, one thing is the uncapped frame rate they're talking about. Apparently, there is a flag called infinite frame rate in the code, which was meant to be more of a performance benchmark than actually running the game at unlimited frame rate. But they go into a little more detail into the challenges of actually doing a truly unlimited frame rate game, talking about how when the game was coded, it was coded based on ticks and knowing that you had a certain frame rate that you were hitting. So you had a certain amount of time to process a given change. And then when the sampling frequency of those changes is now not well defined, that changes the way that you actually have to make those interpretations. And that affects actually rendering the frame, calculating bullet trajectories and speeds and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of things that change when you change frame rates.
And even just, with MCC, with what they did with the update, taking all the games from 30 to 60 frames per second, you saw the results. Hit registration was really crappy.
Yep.
Luckily, it was a relatively easy fix.
Relatively.
In quotes.
It took them a little while to get a fix.
But, they did eventually find the problem, but it's still not a solution that would work for a uncapped frame rate, because the frame rate is constantly changing. So you need something in there telling the game what to do. It's different from having a locked 60 frames per second or a locked 30 frames per second. If you lock the game at a certain frame rate, then you don't have to tell the game what's going on. This is the way it works.
Yeah. There's a lot of things to consider with that. Especially when you're going and retooling a game to do that instead of starting from the ground up.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to build a game for PC than it is to convert a game for PC.
Yes. Yes, it is. And then we get down to the part where FOV comes into play and they showcase some of the issues with that. I definitely recommend checking out those screenshots because they are kind of funny, as GT was alluding to.
Comical.
And then this starts to get to some other cool fun stuff as well. But the MCC progression and unlock system, all this is still very much a work in progress, which they've tried to be very clear on. But they've come up with a pretty interesting system that's going to be similar to Reach. I don't know. Based on what you saw, it seems pretty similar to Reach, right?
Yeah, it's actually a little bit more detailed than the Reach post game or post match screen was. When it comes to your actual rank up, it still has the rank up bar and your rank and how much XP you've earned for that match, but it goes through and shows you they do have a short video. It shows you what medals, bonuses you get, the way you played the game, what kind of bonuses that gives you, other than just your straight slaying. How you did in the match. It looks like it's also taking consideration what you did in the match, like double kills, triple kills, assists, team takedowns, things like that. So far, what they've showed so far, it looks good. They are looking to have seasons, but it's probably not the same type of deal that most people are thinking when it comes to season. They did say that things from a previous season will still be available to unlock. So if you don't get everything unlocked you wanted to for the first season and the second season starts, you can still go back and unlock that item. So that's something that I like. As far as the customization, they are looking to get all of Reach's customization in there, including the stuff that was behind the paywall, where you had to buy a certain item to get the armor.
The pre-order bonuses.
Yeah. Pre-order bonuses, things like that. There was something in there that kind of confused me when they were talking about the armor. And I don't know if this is the way they're going to do it or not, but it sounds like they're going to sell the armor in sets. But they did also talk about the individual pieces. So it maybe sounds like you might be able to use the individual pieces, but to get the armor, you buy it as a set.
Right. I that's kind of the gist I got it.
Or you unlock it as a set, I should say.
Yeah. I remember the part in the stream you're talking about. It was a little confusing, but I think your idea is probably on point, where once you get the unlocking credit, whatever they're calling it now, to actually unlock stuff during the season, then you can get the set of armor with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can use the individual pieces. And just to clarify something else about the seasons too, they said that the seasons right now are geared more towards the release of the games when they get released to MCC on PC. So Reach would be season 1, and then when they release Halo CE for PC, that would probably kick off season 2, and all kind of major content updates from there on out would constitute a new season within the game. And this is all in-game currency. There's no microtransactions for any of this. This is very much harkening back to how you did unlocks in Reach, but they're just trying to put a modern spin on how you unlock it.
And they did comment that there will be stuff that will be behind doing something specific, aka beating the campaign on Legendary.
And that's already a mechanism in MCC today with unlocking nameplates and the little background card things, whatever those are called.
Yeah, I think the part they didn't really clarify is what you will be unlocking, whether it'll be armor or if it'll be just nameplates. Honestly, I hope it's armor, or they at least have some armor, because honestly, don't get me wrong, the nameplate thing's kind of cool, but it's meh. The only time, yeah, the only time you ever deal with the nameplate is in the lobbies.
Right. Or in the PGCR.
Yeah.
So in this update, Sketch did mention wanting feedback from the community on if people would be okay. Well, and he basically kind of said this is something they're thinking about, but they want the feedback on if people would like to see things be unlockable through this kind of unlock system, but that wouldn't replace the previous way to unlock it. So say you got the nameplate for completing Halo 2 on Legendary. Say that the Halo 2 season comes around and then one of your unlocks is that nameplate. They wouldn't remove the ability for any kind of previous unlock condition. It would just be a new way to unlock it if you want to go down that route instead.
Well, like, no, I'm talking about this specific unlock itself. Don't get me wrong, the nameplates are okay, but I want something that when I'm in matchmaking, the whole time somebody is trying to kill me, they can see what I've got.
So the only way to really do that would be adding new armors or new emblems or something like that.
The armor that they have in there, they can put some of it behind achievements.
So he said that none of the unlocks are going to be put behind new restrictions.
Well, some of the original armor was behind completing certain things in the game, like completing the game on Legendary.
Right. He said those would not change, but there might be a added way within this unlock structure to unlock that instead of beating the game on Legendary.
See, that's the deal. I don't like that.
Well, and that's something they're toying around with, so that they're looking for feedback.
It takes away from earning the armor by playing that stupid game on Legendary. Stuff like that. It just makes it less desirable.
I can see that, but again, that's put in your feedback.
Well, we will see what comes about, and yes, I will, because that's just one of those deals.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like with Halo 5. You got the Helios armor for completing MCC, all the campaigns on Legendary. And what did they do? They made another version of it with stripes on it and put it in rec packs. So why did I grind through all of MCC on Legendary for this armor when you were just going to give it away with stripes on it? That's pointless. It just made it feel like I did all that for nothing.
Unless you want that specific paint job.
Well,
but no, I get what you're saying.
I wasn't impressed with the armor selections that they had in Halo 5 anyway. When they do something like that, that should be a unique armor. As in, there's nothing else that looks like it with or without a different paint job.
Yeah, I could see that. It makes sense, especially if it's something that there's a certain level of expectation of, okay, it's going to take this amount of effort to get this, and then
it's like grinding through all these commendations to get this specific helmet. Can you imagine if they had one that looked just like it with a different paint job that you could just unlock in rec packs?
Well, think of all the people that got the recon armor, and then everyone just got recon. So no, well,
that I can that I can kind of understand, because that was kind of the end of the dev cycle for those games, and it wasn't something that they just handed out. You had to grind for it, and you had to do some pretty hairy stuff to get recon.
They eventually, I thought they eventually just gave everyone recon who wanted recon.
Maybe 343 did, but I don't think Bungie ever did.
Right. Correct.
I mean, yeah, in the later games you could get recon. I think it's an armor set in MCC.
It is.
But in Halo 3, I don't know that if you didn't do the achievements, if it's unlocked or not. I honestly don't know. I don't. I'd have to sign in under my wife's profile or something and see if it's available.
I think there's a certain point where if you didn't get recon before a certain point, you can no longer get it.
Yeah, but anyway.
Last thing in the scoop here, though, is they're looking to add challenges. So again, very similar to how they did in Reach. So have weekly and monthly challenges, and those challenges could be tied to earning XP or unlocks or season points and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's the plan for the progression system. All right, wrapping up this update, we've got a couple of more sections to get through before we get to our book. In addition to the 9 engines that are already there, they're going to be adding 2 more, Reach being one of them. But they're also having a little piece of Unreal Engine 4 added into the game as well. And Sketch explained that this was due to some of the things that they've added between all the different games and with some of the new progression system stuff that they're working with and being able to render the new custom armor stuff. They're taking pieces of Unreal Engine 4 to tie that all together. So that's kind of interesting. So this is going to be a big mashup of engines for this game. And then finally, an update on the Insider. We kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but basically, with everything going on with E3, it's actually been more helpful to them than hurtful as far as the dev cycle of things. Usually, whenever E3 builds have to be made, it's a spin-off, and it's something that's specifically built for E3. But in this case, the E3 build that they've actually been working on has helped them address issues during their development cycle. So this actually helped get the game to a state where it could be ready for insiders. And Sketch did mention that sometime this month is going to be when the Halo Insider flight will start. There is going to be hopefully something before E3 comes out, but no guarantees. But that's kind of the goal at the moment. So hopefully not too late out there. For anyone going to E3, the Insider build will be there. We don't know if the E3 build specifically will be the Flight 1 build going out to everybody, but it'll be a pretty close representation of it if it's not. Anyone who's going to be at E3 will be able to play the Tip of the Spear campaign mission, but there's going to be a 10-minute built-in timer to make sure people can actually rotate through and play the game. So there is that to it. So everyone who's gotten into the Halo MCC Insider program, hopefully it will not be too long before we hear who is going to be involved in the first flight. And if you haven't signed up, then go over to the update and find the link to go sign up for the Halo Insider. Because this update took so long, we're going to speed through the community update and get to the book. As a reminder, DreamHack Dallas is the next HCS Grassroots partnered event, which is going to be taking place next weekend. So that'll be the 7th through 9th of June. And they've announced some of their talent lineup being Lottie and Lethal. They'll also have Dan Gaskin, T-Squared, Clutch, and Wonder Boy, with some assistant from Heinz as well doing some analysis stuff. Halo 5 Guardians has posted their June calendar update for playlists. So June 4th, Summer 2019 Arena season begins. Also on June 4th, we get Big Team Battle moving over to Ranked. On June 6th, Forerunner Slayer rotates in for Roman King. On June 13th, Halo 1 Anniversary Throwback rotates in for Castle Wars. And Warzone Assault goes live for the weekend. On June 20th, Rock and Rails rotates in for Forerunner Slayer. And then on June 27th, Husky Raid, which is a new playlist, which rotates in for Halo 1 Anniversary Throwback. I wonder if there's going to be some... I
got a feeling there might be some new maps.
Yeah. That's cool. That's really cool. And also on June 27th, Warzone Turbo. Yay.
Dust's favorite.
So it's a lot of fun. I find it a lot of fun. For Halo Wars 2, earlier today, Season 13 went live. No corresponding balance changes. It's just a rotation of a new season. Outpost Discovery released a new behind-the-scenes video. This is partly the development of another Warthog. I think this will be officially the 4th Warthog ever made. And community panel deadline, well, if you're listening to this via download, it'll be over, but is due March 31st. At this point, I've submitted 26 panels. I'll be submitting 3 more tomorrow. Come visit me at Outpost. Give me some moral support. The last Halo loot crate for this year is coming to a close in about 2 weeks. On June 15th, that'll be your last day to order the Noble Crate. You can do that by going over to podtacular.com/loot crate. And if you use the code Podtacular at checkout, you'll get $3 off your crate. And then a couple of radar blips highlighting the previous community spotlight and 343 social streams. On June 9th, certain Microsoft stores will be hosting free gaming tournaments and showing the E3 press briefing. And at Xbox Fan Fest, if you're in Southern California and you're going to E3, then you can participate in Xbox Fan Fest. Or sorry, no, I think you'll be getting an opportunity to go to Fan Fest. Yeah, so and this will be obviously done by the time the podcast is posted, but happening on Friday, May 31st, if you go to the South Coast Plaza in Costa Mesa in Southern California at 4 p.m. to play in the Halo 3 2v2 tournament, then you have a chance to win tickets to Xbox Fan Fest.
Woohoo!
And then artwork. We have another full quality piece of artwork. This one is depicting Halo 3 crashing down to Earth after he jumps out of the key ship.
Halo
using
3?
some debris.
Don't you mean the Master Chief?
What did I say?
You said Halo 3?
Yeah.
Crashing down to the...
Depicts the Halo 3. Yes.
Didn't he? Support me here, chat.
You're right. You're right. Yeah. You're right. Master Chief crashing down at the beginning of Halo 3. That's what I meant to say.
Sure, right. Although it is a wicked piece of art.
It really is. Full poster print of that, please.
Ooh, it makes a good Twitter banner too. Wow.
Oh yeah, that's actually a good. Yeah, you're right. New wallpaper. Okay. And then also make sure you're following the Halo account on Instagram because they'll be posting videos and pictures from the E3 show all week.
Yay, new background set.
Yay. I will take care of that after the show. All right, moving on to Bad Blood, which is a follow-up in tandem of New Blood and Halo 5. I finished another book. Isn't everyone proud of me? Yay! All right, so New Blood picks up immediately after Halo 5. Well, actually, technically right before the end of Halo 5, because how Master Chief actually gets back to Halsey is actually explained in the beginning of this book. So there's a little bit of lap over there.
Well, it explains how they got off Genesis.
Yes.
Where, Halo 5, they're still on Genesis. So,
it's Spartans doing Spartan things, is how it kind of really turns out to be. Shooting a bunch of Forerunner Armigers, getting Exuberant Witness to activate the portal back to Sanghelios, and they find it was a Pelican, right?
Yes.
Yeah. They find a Pelican, get it working, and they basically blast their way out of Genesis and to Sanghelios after it's been blacked out by Guardians.
Mm.
Mystery solved. And then I didn't pick up on this, I think, originally when I watched the cutscene, but when Cortana found the Infinity was at Earth.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not sure if I picked up on that when I initially watched that cutscene, but
I did. I knew they weren't around saying Helios.
Well, that's for sure. So they've been running away from Earth.
Well, they once the part I don't understand is why they left San Helios when they still had troops there on the ground. Unless I don't know. I
Oni. Just chalk it up to Oni. I don't know.
But yeah, when they showed the final cutscene of them running with all the orbital stations and everything, I knew it was Earth. Because at this point in time, I think Earth is the only planet that has that much infrastructure left.
That makes sense.
When it comes to like orbital stuff, because you could see a couple of Mac platforms up there.
I just didn't, I guess, remember it explicitly, or I forgot.
Well, probably. I mean, it's not something that you would remember.
It wasn't a standout moment necessarily.
Yeah.
They get back to San Helios, and then we have Master Chief and Halsey meeting up for that last scene that we get in Halo 5. And it's all nice and good reunion times. And then they learn that Infinity's coming back around for a pickup in, I think it was like about a day and a half of when they actually got back to St. Helios.
It was noon the next day, local time.
So they waited out and kind of did some talking, and then they hopped. I guess they used the same Pelican to get back to Infinity, and then
they basically met Infinity on the backside of St. Helios' moon,
away from the Guardian.
One thing I would like to comment at during this part, they're talking about how the different Spartans were talking to different people, and this is all from Buck's point of view. And he made the comment that apparently Master Chief and the Arbiter stayed up all night talking to each other. And as he put it, reliving old times. I was like, they were maybe a month and then they were separated. I guess they were really good buddies. Anyway, went from pistol in jaw to best buddy. Okay.
When was the last time they had really, I guess, talked? Because after the events of Halo 3...
Last time they saw each other was when they were hanging from the grave mines. No, I'm sorry. No, that wasn't it. The first mission in Halo 3.
All right, well...
I think the first... Was that the last time they were... No, I'm sorry. The last mission in Halo 3.
Yeah, Halo. Yeah. That was the last time. So that was 5 years. Yeah. So, yeah, they probably had a lot to talk about. But
they actually only knew each other personally for what, a month? I guess you get to know somebody pretty good in a month when you're shooting over their head. I don't know. Anyway,
well, when you're enemies for so long and then all of a sudden you're allies, there's a lot to learn about your newfound allies.
But they do a lot of this throughout the book. They give a more personal twist to it. It's something that's not really needed to move the story along, but it does give the story some dimension.
Yeah. It's like there's actual characters that you're learning about. So after they get to Infinity, there's obviously a big meeting with Locke, John, Captain Lasky, and Halsey, and they're trying to plan on what needs to happen. And as it turns out, there's a certain special someone on the ship
that actually greets them as they're approaching and floors Buck because he was kind of wondering where this person was. Turns out she was on the Infinity. She being one Captain Dare.
Long lost lover.
And you thought Graham was just screwing around when he put up that book cover. See? Here it is. It's in this book.
I forgot about that.
The Buck and Dare love story. It's in the book.
Yep.
There you go.
It really is.
It's in the first chapter and the last chapter. That's all you needed.
Yep.
When Buck and everybody get on the ship, they pretty much already figured out what they were going to do. The fun part was when Veronica told Buck what the plan was.
I got a mission for you.
yeah, this
Why don't you get the
gonna go
gang back
well.
together?
The whole gang.
And not the whole gang you're thinking of, like the whole gang. Like
Yeah.
Alpha 9 as it used to exist. Dutch, Romeo.
Well, at first they didn't know about Dutch.
Well, okay, that's true. Romeo, at least, which is like, okay, that's kind of inconvenient. But
Buck's
whatever.
like, you want me and Romeo to do something? I can't even really stand the guy.
It's like, if you can't stand Romeo.
Like, no, we need all of Alpha 9. And Buck's like, no flipping way. No. But of course,
and he has bigger
Veronica gets Buck to see reason, and he puts his differences aside, and they decide to go get Mickey, the guy that betrayed Buck for the front.
Yep.
Because
almost shot him in the back of the head.
And I love the way Buck put this, because they needed somebody to speak traitor.
They needed a friendly face who the front was willing to listen to and
not shoot first.
Right. And almost kind of be a good omen in a sense of, well, almost like not speaking in not a way of having a gun to your head.
Yeah. But basically the premise of the entire book is trying to get the front to help the UNSC fight against Cortana. That's the purpose of what they're doing. A side note is, and this is a little further into the book, and
we're not necessarily going in chronological order.
The planet they're going to has some technology that enables them to, or some Forerunner technology that is capable of actually hiding a planet. Or, well, actually, I think hiding a solar system, but at least a planet from
just
external detection. I mean, if you fly past it, you can see it, but if you're going past it out of visual range, just looking at, say, sensors, it renders it invisible. So that is the whole premise that's the whole purpose to begin with. The other purpose is to get the front to work with the UNSC to fight against Cortana.
And the bigger sell here is that Cortana's threat is bigger than anything that the UEG could throw at the front. So, and later on, we see down the road, there's a lot of convincing that needs to happen amongst all parties. So, getting Buck to first agree with it, then getting Mickey to agree with it, and then getting the front to agree with it was all there was lots of dialogue going back and forth on trying to find reason.
That was half the book.
Pretty much, yeah.
There was some other stuff in there, but that was a sizable chunk of the book.
Well, and it was interesting because all the arguments that got brought up is like, this is what the UEG does to the front. And it's like, yeah, but Cortana's threat's actually threatening all of humanity. It's like, how is that any different? Well, it's all of humanity and not just two sides seeing it differently. And eventually it's like, okay, I guess you're right. I don't really have any other...
It's a circular argument. Well, you did this to us, so we do this to you. Well, we did this to you because you did this to us.
And it's like, well, who created Cortana? UEG. Okay, so it's your problem. Well, no, not really, because...
No, it is our problem, but it affects you as well.
Right. And then they basically brought the problem to their doorstep.
Well,
we'll get into that in a little bit. Yeah.
We gotta get to Romeo first.
Sure.
Okay, we've got Buck convinced. Veronica says the first place they're going is to go pick up Romeo. And I want everybody to remember what kind of person Romeo is. How much of a thorn in Buck's side is Romeo?
But how much of an expert sniper he is.
Yeah. He wound up assigned to Balaho. Hard words.
Say that 5 times fast. Balaho.
I can't even say it once. which is for those that don't know, is the Ungoys or Grunts' homeworld. So this world is, its atmosphere is methane. So it's reverse. All humans have to wear breathing apparatuses or they suffocate and die. So you get the point. And it stinks. Because it's methane. They make a comment that it's probably due to Romeo and a certain general's daughter or wife or something like that. I think it was wife, wasn't it? Yeah, it was wife. Is probably why he was assigned to that particular assignment.
Yeah, I don't remember that detail specifically, but
yeah, it was one of those little one-liners. You had to be paying attention to get this one.
Yeah.
But his actual mission there was he was there to escort UNSC dignitaries or UEG dignitaries that were trying to set up aid for the Ungoy. Because with the collapse of the Covenant, they basically lost all their supply chains. Food, fuel, everything. Everything they need to continue living was gone. So they were after Cortana made her statement, they were one of the first planets to accept her edict, which bodes well for Alpha 9 because they can approach the planet without having a guardian staring up their butt. So they find Romeo, of course, under attack by Forerunner soldiers and grunts.
Well, the reason being that once the Guardian was there and was supplying everything they needed, they had no more need for the Peace Corps from the UEG to really be there. So they were driving them out.
Well, what the Ungoy were doing, they were holding them captive. And they were basically going to imprison them for Cortana. And Romeo, Buck saves Romeo from the soldiers and the Ungoy. Romeo says he ain't leaving until they save these dignitaries. And once they find the dignitaries, this is where you find the first mention, a certain two-legged mechanical device that happens to be piloted by a grunt.
It was cool to see this reference in the book.
It was. I like the way they put this.
The way they described it, or I guess the way that Matt Forbeck described it, I could actually visualize this marching line in a tunnel with two goblins and a transport, and then some very feisty grunts driving those goblins. And I could hear like the grunt speaker like in my head as you could read it through the book. So that was kind of cool.
You play Warzone whenever you go up against a grunt goblin. The grunt piloting goblins got a lot of attitude. Well, so did these guys.
And you could hear it.
And the way it was written, it came through. That same in your face attitude.
Yeah, it was
until they blew one of them up.
It was great.
Then not so much.
It was great. It was really great. But they ended up rescuing Romeo. It just took a little bit of effort.
Yeah, they had some issues. Their little rescue plan didn't go quite as planned.
Right. Because they were trying to rescue the dignitaries, right?
Well, what happened was they destroyed the two goblins. Most of the grunts ran away, except for one that happened to be holding a detonator that was a dead man switch.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And at that particular moment in time, the Forerunner soldiers decided they wanted to join the fight. So a phaeton blew a hole in the ceiling of the roadway. On Balajo, most of the roadways are underground to protect them from predators and from attack. So the phaeton blows a hole in the ceiling of the road, which drops a big chunk of rock on top of the transport and the grunt that's holding the dead man switch, which is no longer holding the dead man switch.
Boom.
Because he's dead. And
you can't switch him back on?
Big boom. Buck and Romeo fight soldiers, get away, and they beat feet for their next stop. This is kind of a recurring theme. Just keep this in mind.
Yeah, it is.
So their next stop is to pick up Virgil. Or quick to adjust. Either way.
And it's not a quick pickup either. There's also its own complications.
It doesn't go smooth.
Now that I think about it, every one of these rescue missions involves some kind of explosion.
Yep. Well, it is. Like I said, it is a recurring theme.
That just dawned on me that each one of these, even the last one, like at Hole in the Wall, their rescue of getting people off deals with a giant explosion. Wow. They really pulled that trope, didn't they? That's funny.
Like I said, recurring theme. It's Spartans, things go boom. It's just the way things are.
I guess that's what happens.
Turns out that after the New Blood incident, where Virgil and Sadie were kidnapped, they decided that the Hergok should not be out in the field. So they set them up on a secret base on the moon that is on what most people call the dark side of the moon. In other words, the side of the moon that faces away from
the dark side of the moon.
Anyway.
The far side of the moon is the more accurate term.
Yeah. The side that catches all the meteors. That side. Yeah. What was the name of the crater? It's one of the more famous craters on the moon. I can't think of it. But it's a really deep crater. And they put a base in the bottom of the crater and then drilled into the moon to go even deeper. But they've moved all their a sizable number of their Hergok to this particular base, and they use them there as basically a think tank.
It's the Daedalus crater.
Daedalus, yeah. They're basically there as a think tank. Anything that they can bring to the Hergok, they bring to the Hergok when it comes to Forerunner items to help that, so that they can identify it and show the humans what buttons not to push.
Mm-hmm. Well, or make them big red buttons.
Yeah, they do research on new weaponry or defense gear, stuff like that.
Yeah, they basically tech research.
The Hergok.
Yeah, give them a problem, they'll solve the problem.
But of course, when Buck and Romeo and Veronica get there, the Guardian has already been there and has knocked the power out. They get there, and the what you call the shuttle bay, or the
shuttle
they
bay
parked ships had decompressed violently, and they describe what they saw, including the bodies. But Buck and Romeo have a little discussion on how they're going to get in, and Buck's like, "You moron! Did you pay attention to anything but the ladies or how to shoot in basic training?" Romeo's like, "No, pretty much just shooting." So they manually cycle through the airlock, and they're searching the base. They find a door that's locked. Imagine that. And Buck has the brilliant idea of knocking on the door instead of just ripping it open. Good idea. And that's where they find the Hergok.
They did try to open it, that it just wouldn't budge, so they ended up knocking.
Well, they tried to open it, and they didn't rip it off its hinges, but they gave it a good firm try. And that's where you get informed of the soldiers have rounded up all the humans, and they are awaiting transport back to Earth or wherever. But the soldiers are there looking for the Hergok because of course, Cortana knows that the Hergok are a threat.
Yeah.
Because they, Hergok, if you can get one into a Guardian, they can shut down a Guardian. The trick is getting them into the Guardian.
Which it's kind of, I had the idea of why don't they just take Virgil up to the Guardian?
Well, it's not as easy as you think.
No, I know, but like, why not have that be?
If you've read, let's see, what book was that? I have to check to see what books you've read and haven't read. Let's see. Isn't this sad? I mean, isn't this really sad? I got to break my list out to find out what books he's read and what. Let's see, Legacy of Onyx. You've read that one, right?
Yes.
Okay, then I'm not spoiling anything for him. Well, they find Virgil, and they basically say Virgil needs to come with them, and Virgil say, yeah, no, I'm not going anywhere until you say Sadie. And Veronica says, well, just drag him out here. And Virgil's like, you can do that, but that doesn't mean I can help you or that I will help you. You can't make me do what I don't want to.
Yep. And then it's like,
so
okay, we'll go get Sadie.
They wind up having to save all the humans in the base. And they come up with a unique way of doing it.
Explosive decompression.
Yes. Thankfully, the emergency systems had been restored, and they kept all the humans from being sucked into space. So they save Sadie. They take Virgil and Sadie on the ship, which is a Condor. And all the rest of the humans go hide out somewhere in the base with Hergok.
Yep. They found a room to isolate themselves away from the
they found a
armatures.
New room to do
right.
that. Because Buck had found the old room.
And then they sent out messages to the personnel on how to get there. So they're hunkered down now. And
now,
next
stop.
Time to get Mickey.
Can anybody guess where they're keeping Mickey?
Midnight
Facility.
Where
would you keep Mickey?
Midnight Facility.
No.
That's
too obvious. Where would you keep Mickey?
Some backwater
closet
planet.
is a good place, but I don't think so. By the way, that was by Keys. Just so everybody knows.
I missed that one. In the closet. Yeah, I don't think the closet would probably hold him in.
That would be a really big closet, I have to say.
That closet would have to be reinforced.
It's probably not too much. It probably could describe his cell. Closet.
Yes.
They decided to keep him at the Spartan training base. They actually converted a wing into a jail. And the funny part is Mickey's not there by himself.
Nope. There's two other people in there.
There's two other Spartans there in jail. This is not boding well. That makes 4. And the program's only, 3 years old?
Yeah, it's not that old.
We're not doing so hot here. Anyway, they have been trying to get a hold of June. June is the one in charge of the base. The
AI, Leonidas.
No, I'm not talking about Leonidas yet. The Spartan 2, the washout, I can't think of his name.
Oh,
I want to say Mufasa, but that's not it.
Shoot, I know who you're talking about, but yeah, the name is drawing a blank.
Musa. He is basically he's basically playing the political game now. He does oversee the deployment of Spartans, and he works with the UEG and the UNSC to make sure that they're used properly. And June is more in charge of the actual training of recruitment and training of the Spartans. Well, they've been repeatedly trying to get a hold of June, but Leonidas, the station's AI, has been saying he's busy.
He's indisposed.
Indisposed, yes. Keep in mind, they've been trying to get a hold of June ever since the Guardians attacked. So this is days that they haven't been able to get a hold of him.
So they try to hail June. Leonidas picks up, and he says he's indisposed. And Spartan, they come up with the plan that they would only have Spartan Buck be the one to interact with them and get onto the station to retrieve Mickey. So everyone else that's on the Condor actually hides in the rear compartment. That
They'll get put in the trunk.
yeah, Virgil's been so kind to upgrade it to where their long-range sensors wouldn't actually be able to detect inside the whatever the back.
Well, let's rephrase that. The Huragok had developed new stealth tech that was installed on the Condor at the beginning. That's
right.
The way that works.
Okay. But basically, Leonidas, if he scanned the Condor, would only see Buck's life sign. So they kind of stuck with that plan. And he was granted permission to board the station and got out of the Condor, basically telling the technicians to not touch it whatsoever. And
they had no problem with that. They're like, cool, and went back to playing cards.
It's like, cool, makes our jobs easier. We don't have to do anything. Keeping secure comms up with Virgil and Veronica and everyone on the Condor. He was talking to Leonidas along the way on why he was there, and he was just stopping by to check up, and was also asking about Mickey and wanting to see him. He was given permission to go talk to Mickey.
Yeah, he just wanted to stop by and say hi.
Yeah. Pretty much. And then eventually he talked to Mickey. They obviously broke out in the big fight. He went back to say, okay, Veronica, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? And eventually Veronica talked him into sense back again on why. Yeah. So I think at this point he got to the mess hall, right? And he was like somewhere around there.
It was decided that the easiest way to get Mickey out of there was to remove Leonidas from the station systems.
Mm-hmm.
And they went through a big rigmarole. Well, where would Leonidas be? His physical presence, because the reason being is he was retrofitted into the station. So, it wasn't like there was a main server complex or something like that he could be just part of, like in a purpose-built ship or something like that. And he also goes with June to recruit, so he needs to be mobile. So that means he's located on a chip. So they figured out that most likely he's on the bridge at one of the terminals there.
Well, he's in June's office.
Well, they don't know that. They just know he's on the bridge. It turns out he's in June's office.
Okay.
So Buck, there's some other stuff in there. Buck goes to the bridge. There are two unarmored but armed. No, 2 or 3.
2, I think. Yeah. Whatever.
Spartans on duty there, armed with BRs, not just pistols. Leonidas notices that Virgil's been in the system and suspects that Buck is not quite telling him the truth about why he's there, and suggests that Buck leaves. Of course, Buck is...
It basically confirmed that Leonidas has turned over to Cortana.
Right. So Leonidas puts a price, or, basically tells every Spartan on the station to shoot Buck first and ask questions later. And the Spartans that were in the bridge overheard the conversation between Buck and Leonidas and realized that there was something wrong. So Leonidas basically evacuated the air out of the bridge and killed those Spartans. Of course, didn't kill Buck because he's still in his full rig. Buck figures out where Leonidas is, pulls his chip, and goes to get Mickey. Part of the reason he was able to do that is because Virgil temporarily cut power to the station. And the reason I say that, because that leads into how he found Mickey at the guard station holding a gun on one of the guards. And by the way, the other 2 prisoners that were with him, they didn't have to worry about containing them anymore.
Yeah.
Apparently, one of them tried to make good on his threat to take care of Mickey. Mickey didn't like that.
Mickey took care of it.
Big shootout as they're trying to get Mickey out of the station. And lo and behold, in the middle of the big shootout, guess who shows up?
Dutch! And
Gumby.
someone else.
Oh.
And someone else, though. Gretchen.
Yeah, Dutch and his wife, Gretchen, show up.
Yeah. Dutch has a wife.
And they're Spartans.
Almost.
Well, trainees.
Trainees.
They are
trainees.
in their they are in their Mjolnir rigs.
Are they in the rigs? I thought just the undersuits.
Yeah, Dutch and Gretchen help Mickey and Buck get off the station. And, they are in the process, Leonidas' chip gets crushed. And as they're leaving, June is finally not indisposed because now he is conscious because the air was returned to his living quarters. It's kind of hard to be conscious when you can't breathe.
Yeah.
There's not enough air. I like the way they put this.
This is after they left, right? Because June.
This is after they left. June contacted him on the radio and was asking Buck if he would happen to know anything about one Michael Crespo escaping his cell. And Buck's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And if he happened to know what had happened to the station's AI, and Buck's like, I don't know. And how much trouble one person would be if they were actually caught and court-martialed. And then finally how grateful he was that this person is okay and that one prisoner's the responsibility of holding a certain prisoner, and that it's, if anything happens, it's his fault. It's
saying, I know what you did, and I'm going to pretend it didn't happen.
Exactly.
But thank you for saving my butt.
So now
the fun begins.
We're halfway through the book. Well, almost. Yeah, no, we're halfway through.
A little more than halfway through.
Yeah, the next stop is the Invisible Planet, which the town on the Invisible Planet is called the Hole in the Wall. And I've already thought of the jokes. I'm not going to continue with that. On approach,
of them.
they made themselves very visible to make sure that they are not shot at. They don't want to surprise the people on the planet.
Yeah, the planet is Cassidy 3.
Cassidy, yeah, that's what they call it. And I like Invisible Planet better, though.
Well, yeah. There is that.
They get on the radio, and between Dare and Mickey, they talk their way down or into being able to land. Of course, they make them land out in the middle of nowhere because, they don't want to blow up their own stuff.
And then they're welcomed by a nice entourage of armed front men.
They have a little discussion on how they should present themselves to the front, as far as how much armament they should display. And being that there are 4 fully armored Spartans on here, there's kind of a limit to how much you can de-arm because, that Mjolnir doesn't just fall off.
I mean, we've seen the videos in the games of the machines that take the armor off, and I don't think you can really store that in the Condor that easily. And I don't think Virgil has the time to take it all off himself either.
Well, it's one of those deals that you don't want to have to take it off in a hurry.
Right.
Virgil could get it off, but, it's why
take a little time.
Decan the Spartans.
So I think they basically decided to go bucketless and just have pistols as sidearms and leave the heavy artillery behind.
Well, yeah, they leave the long guns, as Buck puts it. Pistols, they do bring their helmets, but they're not wearing their helmets, I believe.
Yes.
They talk to the front's leader, what was her name?
Major. I'm blanking. I have the character.
It was basically, you
Major
did
Wells?
this to us, so we did this to you, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then they finally, Veronica and Mickey finally convince her that, yeah, this is a problem, but this is your problem too, and you need to help to fix it. And what they were trying to do is get access to the Forerunner technology that is on the planet to try to either recreate it on another planet or make it to where they could use it at minimum on, a ship to hide ships. And a deal was struck where they would loan Virgil and Sadie to the front, and in exchange, they would
guarantee Mickey would be returned.
Yeah. With the return of Virgil and Sadie, they would release Mickey, which was that was a bonus to the front as well. So it was kind of win-win for them. They get the assistance of a Hergok in researching this artifact, and then they also will get Mickey at the end. Unfortunately, while they're hashing this all out, Virgil is poking around in the armor systems of Gretchen, and he finds a little stowaway.
Well, I guess who it is?
So they hot pocket it over to the rest of the team, and Virgil discuss what he found with Buck, and he found a little piece of Leonidas in the armor. And so he checks out Dutch's armor, and guess what? There's another little piece of him there too.
And guess what happens within the next 10 minutes?
Yeah. They put the pieces in a tablet and to talk to Leonidas and find out what he's done, even though they kind of already knew. And guess what? There is a Guardian on the way. And just as they finish that sentence, guess what pops up?
Guardian.
Oh, just as the leader of the rebels walks up to them too. Surprise! One Guardian.
And does the whole blackout thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's Major Juanita Wells is the Major.
We'll just go with Major Wells, because if I try to say that first name, I'm going to butcher it at least 12 times.
So one thing to note here, actually, before kind of moving on too much, is during the initial greeting of the of Dare and the Spartans, Major Wells, or Veronica wanted to talk to Major Wells in private, and she said, there's nothing that I would say here that I wouldn't say in front of everyone else. And then when they actually took him into the city, they were in an amphitheater where people could watch them and listen to them discussing things. So it's a very open community of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
No secrets type of thing. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, they, which is, I guess it's one way to do things. It very community involved in politics, but she also makes a comment when they go to the amphitheater that you are welcome to hang around, but this is where the boring part is.
Yes.
Typical fashion, the Guardian does its immobilization pulse, and then Forerunner portals start popping up everywhere, and soldiers start coming in to pacify the city. In the meantime, Virgil and his busy little tentacles have fixed the Condor. They put together a battle plan where, reluctantly, Major Wells reveals that they do have some fighters on the other side of the planet, and it was decided they'll use the fighters to distract the Guardian while Virgil goes to the airport, fixes the ships, and they load as many people onto the ships to get them off planet, which pretty much works the way they want it to.
Yeah. Surprisingly, it turned out okay.
The fighters do manage to distract the Guardian. Of course, they do go into detail about fighting the Forerunner soldiers and stuff.
Stuff we've already seen before.
Pretty much, you play Halo 5, you know what they went through. The best part is when they take and stuff Mickey into a old set of ODST armor. And I do mean stuff.
Yeah.
What I find interesting is that they give Mickey a shotgun. Everybody else has got battle rifles, but Mickey gets a shotgun. But he is using Buck for a meat shield, so.
Because Buck has Spartan armor with shields. So he's running behind Buck, and then whenever Buck has to reload...
I mean, I would probably do the same thing.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I think there was one point in there where Buck was reloading, and then Mickey just peeked around the corner and shot a few shots off while Buck was reloading.
Yeah, pretty much in all the fights Mickey's involved in, that's how it works. He hides behind Buck, he peeks out, shoots, and then goes and hides behind Buck.
Yeah. It worked.
So they managed to successfully get a portion of the Hole in the Walls population off planet. Basically, the leaders of the settlement and their families, scientists, soldiers, stuff like that, or people like that. They don't really go into any detail on how many people, but several ships worth. And then it's decided that now that they've gotten these people off planet, that they will surrender. So guess who comes back into the party? Leonidas gets turned back on, and he talks to the Guardian to get the Guardian to stand down. And, basically
they want to surrender.
They have surrendered. Pacification is no longer needed. With some deliberation, the Guardian decides that it has done its job, and it recalls all the Forerunner soldiers. And one of the conditions was that they let Leonidas go with the Guardian.
That was going to happen. Sure.
Sure it is. It happened. Mostly.
It started to.
The Guardian basically sent down what they call a Durance node, which I know that shows up somewhere else in the lore for some reason. And it explains what it is, because it sounds familiar. But anyway, they basically stick the tablet that Leonidas is in on the side of the Durance node.
A Durance is used to contain a Promethean's Knight's essence. It's an external container for an unlocked Durance shell. Thank you, Halopedia.
Spartan Ops. The thing that they recover. That's what it was. So as the Durance node is flying back up to the Guardian, Alpha 9 decides it's time to go. So they all hop into the Condor, and somebody's missing. Dutch, Mickey, Dare, Buck,
Gretchen, Sadie.
Well, Gretchen's already on the ship.
Yeah, she's piloting
Quick
the ship.
to adjust, and Sadie are all there, but Romeo has been misplaced.
Well, not been misplaced. About him, he's been in a certain spot for a while. Intentionally.
And Buck says, "Don't worry about it. I know where he is. He's where he needs to be." So everybody loads up, and he tells Gretchen, "Be ready for a quick pickup." So she fires up the engines, gets the ship up in the air, and Romeo is on top of the hangar with an M99 stanchion rifle, and he's looking at a specific tablet that's, a mile or so away. And he destroys Leonidas.
And that pisses the Guardian off.
Yeah, he's not happy about that. Anyway, Romeo jumps into the Condor. They beat feet for orbit. They just about make it, and the Guardian fires off its EMP pulse, whatever it is.
Well, so it's like a focused laser that has that EMP effect.
No, it was the EMP is a wideband thing. It radiates from the Guardian, goes out everywhere. So it knocks the power out of the Condor.
I don't think it was like the general EMP thing. I thought it was like a laser type of...
No, it was the lasers are the actual destructive weapons. The ones that come off his shoulders.
Eric was saying it's not EMP, but it functions similarly, but it's not quite a laser.
They have two... the Guardians have two forms of attack. They have the EMP pulse, and then they basically have like a hard light cannon or a laser cannon. The EMP pulse just knocks everything offline. The cannons actually destroy stuff, like level buildings, things like that.
I thought the way the book described it, though, it was something that was more like the destructive one, but had an EMP effect to it.
No.
Okay.
No, it was the EMP attack. Now, before that, it was using its lasers or hard light cannons, whatever you want to call them. I don't know what you want to call them. And Gretchen was avoiding that, and the Guardian got frustrated, so he just says, "Well, fine, I'll just knock the power out." And the reason the Guardian did it in that order is because with the EMP attack requires a lot of power, and it takes the Guardian a while to recover that power after use. So after using that, it wouldn't have the ability to use the cannons to shoot at the Condor. So it was trying to shoot the Condor down first, which is funny how it could shoot down fighters, but it couldn't shoot down the Condor. A1 marksmanship there.
Right.
But anyway, knocks the power out of the Condor, and Virgil gets the power back on, but has to go outside to get the engines restarted. And
while they're falling,
where this is going? Did I mention earlier that Buck's jump jets were damaged? No, I didn't. I forgot to. So Buck takes Virgil outside to fix one of the engines. He basically takes the harness that holds Virgil's tablet that he uses to speak and clips it to his armor and holds Virgil by the inlet of the engine while he reaches in there and fixes them, or the exhaust of the engine. And while he's there, he's trying to figure out an escape plan for when Virgil does actually fix the engine. But just as Virgil is pulling his tentacles out, he rips loose of Buck. Well, the harness gives way and rips loose. Buck catches him and then loses his grip, and now they're plummeting back to the earth. He tells Gretchen to fire up the engine and get the heck out of there. Of course, that's not the way things work. They save Virgil and Buck, and then they beat feet for infinity. And this is where, the Buck and Dare love novel continue. They get back, they basically debrief. You get to a point where Mickey is being escorted around the ship. They haven't actually put him in the brig. He's just escorted around the ship. And after everybody gets cleaned up, Buck goes to the bar and Mickey shows up. Locke is actually there with Osiris. Locke comes over and joins Buck, and they're sitting there talking. And then Mickey shows up.
I thought Buck joined Locke and then Team Osiris, and then they took him to the side. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, it's Buck and Locke are sitting at a table talking to each other. Mickey comes in, and of course he's all awkward and everybody's staring at him. So, Buck calls him over to the table, and, he's been talking to Locke about Mickey and about how life sucks and everything. And Mickey, if I remember correctly, Mickey says something, "Don't you have a problem with me?" And Locke looks at him and says, "Not if you're buying."
Well, he's like, "Any friend of Buck's," and then he's like, "As long as you're buying."
Yeah.
So the Guardian must have a third weapon, because it says an attenuating pulse weapon functioning like an EMP is what.
Yeah, that's its main weapon.
Oh, okay. But it said it clipped our wings, so that wouldn't be a full EMP then.
It has an effect like an EMP. That's the weapon I'm talking about. It's basically when they bring the wingtips together, it sends out a wave that acts like an EMP.
No, I get that, but this is the way this is saying is it barely touched the Condor's wingtips, and that's what actually caused the whole thing to lose power. So, anyways, it's like a different kind of weapon. It sounds like. But anyways, back to Mickey, and near the end of the book.
Yeah, at this point, Dare shows up in the bar, and they get on the marriage subject again, and
And she dares him to marry.
Dares him to marry her.
I love that line.
And Buck thinks about it. It actually stammers him. Like, what now? And she's like, why not?
And then she
pulls out a tablet. And
this part's great. And he's like, is this official? And then Roland pops up and it's like, yeah, this is official, dude.
And Roland performs the ceremony.
A pretty freaking short ceremony.
Yeah, well, it's, do you? Okay, you're married.
Pretty much. And the way they do the marriage contract, so to speak, is you put your both hands on a tablet with fingerprints and everything, and then ta-da, you're done.
Well, I mean, honestly, marriage, the way we do marriage is not that much difference. We have a lot more ceremony to it.
Right. But if like you're to you go to courthouse.
Yeah, once your marriage license is signed by the pastor or the official, you're married.
Yeah. No, it's just funny.
It's no difference than, yeah.
It's like, no prep whatsoever. Bam, done.
Yeah, no wedding dress shopping, no finding the right tux.
And they had a honeymoon. They just didn't detail it. Some other new secret mission that Buck can't talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
But all in all, it's a good book. I really enjoyed it. It is definitely told from Buck's point of view.
When she first brought up the subject of marrying her, which I think was en route to the hole in the wall. It was like, Buck, you're stubborn. Why are you so stubborn? Just say yes already. And she had to drag him into it to finally do it. It happened. Yeah. So that's that. Another book in the bag. Another one done. This was a lot of fun. So next one will be Hunters in the Dark. I have no idea when we're going to do it with the crazy schedule coming up this summer, but I would say we'll probably attempt to do it either late June or mid-July, somewhere around there.
We'll see how far he gets after his trip to E3. It's a relatively short book, so hopefully it won't take him too long.
Yeah, and I've got 10 hours of flight.
I think the audiobook's only 7 hours.
Okay, so that won't take me too long to read then. And Eric,
so about 3 hours into the flight, he's going to be looking for something else to do.
And Eric makes a good point. Yes, I'm also glad that they're finally married and put that behind them. So according to Kindle, it's going to take me 5.5 hours to read based on my reading pace.
No, Laird. Sorry.
No. And when we do that, we're going to get the Halo Conversationalist folks, because I don't think they've touched that one either. But yeah, that was good. I know it kind of took a little long for this podcast because of the Reach announcement and everything, but it was a good book.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the next one. So again, start reading Hunters in the Dark. That's where we'll be going to next in about a month's time. Next week we'll be doing our E3 prediction, conspiracy theory, whatever you want to call it, show.
They're going to show us stuff. Oh.
Yeah, lots of stuff. And I will be at E3 as well, so if you plan on attending, then feel free to drop me a note on Twitter and we can try to meet up or something. I think with how long it's going, I'll just kind of speed through the other stuff. Check us out on Thursday nights at 9 p.m. on our live streams for our podcast. That's Eastern Time. 8:30 p.m. Pacific or Eastern Time on Fridays for Fragment Friday. We'll be doing Halo 5 again tomorrow. And then Sundays at 10 p.m. Eastern, you can catch our achievements stream. You can also find us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Discord. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. So thanks everyone for tuning in tonight. Thank you, GT, for putting up with my laziness or being behind on all the book reads. But it's good to finally get another one under our belt.
Well, we got one series down. Now we get on to the next one.
We mean... Oh, okay.
One storyline.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
The storyline as it is so far.
All right, everyone. Have a good weekend. We will catch you all next week, if not in one of our live streams. Till then, keep on fragging them Guardians.